how did you go about getting the late Garry Shandling's diaries, and what's the documentary about?
Well, I'm going to make a documentary for HBO about Garry Shandling. I'm going to start it later in the year. And Garry kept journals throughout his life, and most of it was Buddhist reminders. He was a very spiritual person, and so most of it is him just saying, be kind, be compassionate, live in the moment. You're missing something by thinking. That's what it said on one page. And they, give you, a sense of the type of person that he was trying to be. He was trying to really be there for other people. In one entry he says, grow old gracefully, learn to become a mentor gracefully. And in his journals, it says that he wanted to turn his journals into a book. So, I very, selectively, Instagram some journal pages that I found inspiring, and the things that are private, we, keep private. But I know that Garry felt like he was a teacher and a mentor, and there are lessons in there, and I think that he would want people to, learn those lessons, and hopefully that can be in the documentary.
Every rewarding experience and important break in your career can apparently, in some way, be traced back to Garry Shandling. How?
Well, I met Garry when I was a comedy writer and a stand-up, and he was asked to host the Grammys. And I remember because it was like the day the Gulf War started, the first one in the early 90s, and he asked for some jokes, and I stayed up all night and wrote 100 jokes because I thought, I want to be indispensable to this person. And then Garry would take all the jokes and basically use my setups and write better punchlines. But in a way, I was just explaining what the issue was with a certain artist, and then he would think of a better joke. And then he invited me to New York to go to the rehearsals, and then stay for the show to be backstage with him, helping him organize his jokes. And it was, it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Bono gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to Frank Sinatra. Jack Nicholson brought out Bob Dylan. Eric Clapton won all of these Grammys for Tears in Heaven. It was really magical. And then we just became very good friends, and he agreed to be in the Ben Stiller Show pilot in a cameo. And I always felt like his cameo and Roseanne's cameo was the reason why we got picked up by Fox, because it made it feel like maybe good people would want to be on the show.
Right.
And then when that show got canceled, he asked me to be a writer at the Larry Sanders Show. And then when I was there, he asked me if I wanted to direct. I never asked him to direct. He just had some instinct, you should be a director. And in addition to teaching me about spirituality and Buddhism, which we would talk about, he just was a giant positive influence, for 20 years.
What do you think made him special on a personal level?
Well, he was a very sweet person. He really cared deeply. I'm sure sometimes it was painful, to care that much. He certainly was a hilarious, neurotic man with his own set of, specific problems that he struggled with. But he was also, like a genius. I mean, truly a genius as a writer and an innovator. But as a friend, just always there for you. I mean, I went through all my emails that I received from him after he passed, and I would notice that in every email, if I ever asked him for something, he said yes every single time. Hey, Garry, they want me to give this talk. Do you want to come? What time? Hey, Garry, I'm going to perform at Largo. You want to come on stage and goof off? Yeah. What time? Every single time for decades. And that's the kind of person that he was.
What do you think he taught you?
I think, in terms of the writing, it was all about truth. Just having the courage to tell the truth, just getting to the core of people's essence. And that's where drama was, that's where comedy is. And so all the lessons about writing all came from the Larry Sanders Show. When I did Freaks and Geeks with Paul Feig, in my head, I had, all I thought was, this is just the Larry Sanders Show if it was different people in high school. And so I would just think, what would Garry do in this situation? What question would Garry ask to figure out this problem. It was like having almost a program in my head of Garry's approach to breaking things down. And then as a person, I think he tried very hard to be a, truly giving friend. When we did the 40-Year-Old Virgin, he would come to all the table reads, he would read all the drafts, just as a friend, but give us amazing jokes, amazing set pieces. We were trying to figure out if the 40-Year-Old Virgin masturbated, and do we have to acknowledge this on some level? And Garry said, well, why didn't you just do a sequence where you show him prepare to masturbate? Like he brushes his hair, puts on his fancy bathrobe, and it's a big sequence in the movie. And then he always said, you need an end to this movie that shows that he's in love and that all of his friends are having these crazy relationships that are all dysfunctional. But because he's in love, his sex is better than his friend's sex. And I kept saying, I don't know how to do that. How am I going to show the sex at the end of the movie? I can't show the sex. How creepy and weird is that? He's like, you have to find a way to do it. And then he would call me and leave messages. Have you figured it out yet? How are you going to show the sex? You got to figure out, you got to show that love, when there's real connection, the sex is different. And then I kept saying that to Steve. Garry says, we got to figure this out. And then one day Steve said, what if I just break into a song? I just start singing a song. And I said, yeah, maybe like, let the sun shine, like from Hair. And then that's what we did.